Shalom and welcome to Tov, the Jewish news channel. We have with us today Ziv Maor, who is an attorney here in Israel and a commentator on this channel and on various other channels. So what to do with all the captives, I don't know what to call, they're not POWs, they're not prisoners of war because they're not part of a legal army. So they're, am I right? Is that correct?
We can simply call them terrorists, detained terrorists. This is the right name. This is the way, by the way, that the United States used to describe the people who are detained in Guantanamo Bay. Detained terrorists. This is the definition. They're terrorists.
Detained
not a part
terrorists.
Of,
okay.
Yeah.
So we have these detained terrorists, and the question is, what happens to them? What can happen to them? Under Israeli law, I understand there are a number of options in different laws. There's a law against mass murder, and there are other laws which come with the death penalty, capital punishment. The big question is, would the Israeli courts uphold those laws? In this case.
So in order to discuss it, it's a very problematic, a very heated debate in Israel. My bottom line would be that at the time pursuing the death penalty for detained terrorists, no matter how harsh their deed was, is not a good idea at the moment, because Israel has no de facto death penalty at the time. And this is because we didn't have a reason to do so, or most Israelis thought so, up until recently, because we simply didn't have it. So this would be a change in the status quo. And this is not a good idea at the moment. Israel is under immense pressure about what it's currently doing in Gaza, and its moral motivations are being constantly questioned by foes and allies alike. And currently changing the status quo about death penalty would put another enormous pressure about Israel and help depict it as the bad side, as the villain of the entire conflict. Our problem is completely different. The fact, or the idea that we even consider this, comes out of the fact that our prison system treats those detainees the wrong way, in a manner that is not needed by law. They're being treated better than criminal offenders that sit in Israeli jail. The Israeli system extra-legally applies on them international treaties that should only apply to POWs, to prisoners of war that have some privilege over regular criminal convicts. This has got no justification whatsoever, and the fact that the Israeli government stands to it instead of standing up to its own officials, to its own employees, demanding that those horrendous detainees that did the worst crime possible even before the war, being treated better than non-terrorist convicts, is something that we treat. The reason that there is in Israel an outcry for death penalty for terrorists is because we do not trust our prison system to treat those terrorists the way they're supposed to treat, and the fact that as long as they're alive and breathing in our cells, they're still negotiable with potential Israelis who've been hijacked by Hamas. So this is why Israelis promote and support death penalty. But if we manage to, first of all, establish a legislation that will disallow for those terrorists to become negotiable with Israeli detainees by Hamas, on one hand, and if we will establish what it takes for our government to actually realize the law and not just legislate it. This means that even if the Knesset will legislate even a basic law, semi-constitutional law, that says that there should be no negotiation with terrorists about releasing them, this still doesn't mean that the court will not violate the law and coerce the government to do so. So we need to find a way to get our legal system to obey the legislation that is being legislated democratically within the Knesset. And once we've passed that, we need to make sure that those terrorists are being treated the way the terrorists should be treated, which means no amnesty and no negotiation about releasing terrorists in return for releasing hijacks from Hamas.
Okay, that's a very big agenda. That was basically what the legal reform was trying to do, to take power back from the courts and distribute it in a balanced way between the parliament, the executive, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. What we have now is a judocracy. We have the courts deciding over the parliament what the laws should be. They're actually legislating in the courts. So that's a very big challenge for the future of Israel. Yeah. And the second part, to pass a law that can't be overridden, that Israel will never negotiate with terrorists over these prisoners. Wow, that's a very difficult task. Thank you very much, Ziv Maor.
I do believe on one hand, the death penalty is legitimate and moral in these unique circumstances. But on the other hand, I do believe that as difficult it is to cross the two barriers that you've just mentioned, first, to create an infrastructure that stipulates that laws should be obtained by the court. And the second one is to legislate a law that bans such deals. Then those two obstacles are smaller than the one that Israel would face if it would indeed pursue death penalty for terrorists.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ziv Maor, and thank you to our viewers. Don't forget to subscribe to all our channels on YouTube, Telegram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. Shalom.